Welcome to the best of first-person episodes from Phantoms and Monsters. Please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you'll be notified of all future uploads.
Scary UFO encounter in Alabama. Just came on duty, profession and place of business removed, still dark. Work gate by myself. Plant is out in the country. Eating some McDonald's standing outside guard shack and noticed off in the distance over a stretch of pasture, what looked at first to be a helicopter slowly traversing field. About a mile away or less. Watched it for a minute or two as it came closer to plant. Realized that I did not hear any rotor noise. Looked closer as it came toward new construction, new smelter building. It disappeared behind building for a minute, then came right over the top, and it was then I realized that I had no idea what it was. Took out my cell phone and tried to get camera on. My hands were shaking pretty bad. Got it on, looked up, and it was almost directly over me at I would guess about 50 feet. I took a couple of shots as it began to ascend. It got up pretty high, I'm not sure, maybe 1,000 feet, and then it just vanished. After the fact I remembered that it did not make noise, but it did vibrate my chest and head. Very strange feeling and hard to explain. It had 3 distinct lights on the underside that changed in intensity as it took off, very blue and slightly violet. No heat. The top side was very dark, and I could not see any detail. Not a saucer shape but a circle cut in half. Flat side down. No lights on top. My Air Force buddy tried to tell me it's one of ours, but he is wrong. I am familiar with most aircraft and this was not one of ours.
Unknown encounter, UFO, entity or what? My husband, 8-year-old daughter, and I were in Lecce, Michigan at my husband's uncle's house on June 22, 2012. This is a small town about a half hours away from Alpena in northern Lower Michigan. We were there to patch up some holes on the eaves where bats were going in and had a nest. It was dusk and we were waiting for the all bats to fly out before we patched the holes. My husband seen an object and he pointed to it. It was moving very slow coming towards us, and it was black. It was about 3 telephone poles higher than the tree line. The place we were at was very wooded and surrounded by nothing much, but farms and fields. It was a very quiet night. This object made no noise and moved slower than a bird. I thought it must be a huge bird he's showing me, but as it got closer I seen it had no movement, just slowly floating across the sky. It was bigger than a human, almost as if a person could fit inside of this small thing. Or a large creature kinda hunched over. I don't know how else to describe it. I instantly got the feeling something wasn't right about this thing, cause nothing moves like this. We got a good minute or so to look at it as it moved in front of us, and we couldn't figure out what this thing was. We couldn't make out any detail on it. Nothing on it was moving. It wasn't a bird, plane, balance, or anything we have ever seen. It gave me the creeps just seeing this strange thing move so unnatural. My daughter kept asking me, "What is it?" I had no idea what to say. It continued to go past us and never went higher or lower, just perfectly straight across till it disappeared behind the tall trees out of our sight. Went back there the next night but didn't see it.
UFO, possible abduction in Illinois. On this night I had some buddies of mine over for a visit. I live in the outskirts of town in the open country farm area. There were 4 of us there. It was a very nice warm summer night. I had my guitar outside and plugged into an amp and was playing some tunes for my friends. We were having some beers and just enjoying the night since it was the weekend. The sky was very clear and the stars were all around. My friends had been there going on about 6 hours and it was getting to be about 2 a.m. in the morning. My mother and stepfather were out of town and I was staying home alone. We had dairy cows at that time and grew corn. The sky was still clear and all of a sudden the wind started blowing as if a storm was approaching, but there wasn't any clouds as we could see. The cows in the barn started acting funny and making noise, like something was bothering them. One of my friends then said he was ready to leave because he didn't want to get hit with that storm he thought was coming and needed to get home. So he looked up at the sky and said, "That's so strange," because he didn't see any clouds or anything, but the way the wind was acting, it should have looked stormy. But he got in his car, then pulled out of my long driveway we have and drove off. Well, right after he left, my other 2 friends decided they were gonna leave also. As they were pulling out of the drive I noticed something big and dark above one of the 3 corn bins we have and was just hovering above it. I quickly started flashing the house lights on and off to get them to come back and to look at what I was seeing, but they never even noticed the thing and just drove off honking the horn goodbye. I then turned my attention back to the object and started to walk towards the corn bin where it was hovering. I noticed it was very large and was triangle shaped. It looked bigger than the corn bin. It had some lights kind of pulsating around it. I thought, what the heck? I had a beer in my hand as I walked up to it. No, I wasn't drunk, I was seeing this thing. The beer was in my right hand because I'm right-handed and always use that hand. Just as I was staring at this thing, bam. This light hits me like a spotlight, very bright. I can't see anything now. Just that light. After I was hit with that light, all I remember was the light going back up into the UFO, and it just took off like very fast and was gone. Now this is the strange part. This all happened at around 2 a.m. and was dark outside, of course. But now as I'm standing there, the sun is coming up and it's just becoming dawn. And the beer I was holding was now in my left hand, and I swear that I never switch it. Seems 4 hours had passed and I don't remember what happened in between. I feel I was taken aboard or something and then put back down. I have had bad dreams since then and always about being on some strange table being looked at by aliens. I just wanted to share this story since I feel maybe this may have happened to someone else perhaps, and to let them know they are not alone. Thank you very much for reading my report. CM from Illinois.
Close Encounter, Alberta, Canada. My husband and I were stargazing at a park near our house. We sat on a hillside, overlooking the park, and at the edge of someone's yard. The sky was bright and full of stars, but there were some low clouds covering the western sky, which were getting closer to us. I was looking almost straight up. The edge of the clouds were right above us. Suddenly below the clouds a boomerang-shaped craft appeared. It was getting closer to us, coming at us, and getting bigger. It seemed like it dropped out of the cloud. It descended towards us for a couple seconds, then it stopped. It started moving southeast in a slightly curved line, and then it suddenly stopped, made a 90-degree rotation. The whole craft turned like a steering wheel, staying flat and then turned back. The turn seemed to give it propulsion to take off at an incredible rate of speed. There is only one tall building in town. It disappeared behind the building, but got noticeably smaller, further away, as it did so. As I was watching, I tried to get my husband's attention, but I was in awe, and by the end he was saying, "What?" But it was already over. The whole thing lasted maybe 10 seconds, but that was long enough to get a good look. I thought it was a smaller craft at first, but I calculated the distance of the cloud cover and realized if it was truly that far away, about 1,000 feet, then it must have been huge for me to see the details I saw. It blended into the night sky. The texture reminded me of what you would see on a movie spaceship. Metal came to mind. I think the inner side, but it may have been the outer side, as it was 6 years ago, and what looked like a trap door in the middle. The lights were not turned on. Like I said, the whole thing seemed to blend in with the sky. I tried to discount it as a plane, but planes don't move that fast or turn the way it turned. Afterwards, I said to my husband, "Did you see that?" He said, "See what?" So at first I thought maybe I was hallucinating. I explained to him as we walked home. I was now losing the awe and calm and excitement of the initial sighting, and I began to get scared. It came down right on top of us, so I entertained thoughts that it wanted to abduct me. I was so terrified after that, I slept with the lights on for 4 days. Only about 10 people knew about this, until now. I decided to tell before the memories get too hazy. KP.
Military craft or UFO? I have always been interested in aircraft. When I was in school and went to the library, I always read Jane's military and other aircraft books. Even at the time of my sighting, I could identify 95+% of any aircraft, military or civilian. During summer school vacation, my parents would send my younger brother and I to stay a week or two with my grandparents in Wells, Maine. I was approximately 14 or 15 years old at the time. Their house at 90 degrees to the road it was on. A small dirt parking lot about 40 foot wide and 100 foot long separated their house from the neighbors. My grandparents' house was a two-family with a garage attached to the rear of the house. Above the garage was a patio, accessible by the second-floor apartment where my grandparents lived. Behind their house was a small field, 150 feet square. Beyond the field was a row of small trees, less than 25 feet tall. Beyond the trees was a water treatment facility under construction at the time. Beyond that was a large saltwater marsh several hundred yards wide, a road, beach houses and then the ocean. Many times while at play here I noticed many military aircraft coming and going from the north. They were always rather low, less than 5,000 feet. Due to their low altitude I always assumed there must be an Air Force base nearby. I saw mostly C-130 cargo planes, but do recall one time seeing a B-1 swing wing bomber, again heading due south right over the house then out over the marsh. On night my grandmother, my brother, and I were just settling in to watch TV. It was around 8 p.m., but summertime, so it was still candlelight outside. All of a sudden my grandfather could be heard yelling, "Hey, come here, hey, come here." He was out on the patio above the garage. We all went out there, and when I turned to the right and looked there was a saucer-shaped craft over the dirt parking lot about 20 feet off the ground. It was about 60 feet away and moving south very slowly. It was about 15 to 18 feet long and about 3 or 4 feet thick. It was a dark flat black color. I could not see any rivets or panels or doors. The lower half was ringed with thin, almost laser-like lights. Green, yellow, orange in color, with thicker bumps in the lines that moved back and forth. It made no sound. Nobody said a word. I could feel every hair on my body standing on end. Its height was even with my line of sight. It just cleared the row of small trees, went out over the marsh, then out over the ocean. Due to its slow speed, this took some time. We all went into the house when it was just a dot of light and sky.
This is Lon Strickler. If you like this program, it would help us if you would give it a thumbs up. Then subscribe and click the bell icon so you get notification when we upload new first-person encounters. We have many more to come very soon. And by the way, if you have a suggestion or an experience of your own, please leave a comment.